Welcome back, nerds. We are your hosts. I am Jake.
And I'm Chad.
This week we are sponsored by Ray's Energy Drinks.
We're also sponsored by Crybaby Craig's Hot Sauce.
This week we have an awesome interview for you guys. The authors of Finding Jack Kirby in a Pile of Zinc.
Yeah.
And dude, these guys are so cool. We talked to them for, I won't talk too much about
Yeah.
it, but we'll get into it in a second here. But this is the All Things Nerd podcast. Let's get into it. Did that back asswards.
Nerd. Welcome back to the All Things Nerd podcast, your weekly dive into all things
Yeah.
nerd.
Wait.
So, Jake, you good?
Yep, good. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me right now. I'm so sorry.
I can tell you it's everything that's not going on behind you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it could be it. There's like a weird echo in here. Yeah, so I'm as if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you see it. If you're not, go watch it. But I'm moving. So I have none of my nerd stuff is up anymore, and it's weird. It's super weird. But yeah, I move on. Wednesday is our first day in our new house. Super exciting.
That is super exciting. So,
Yeah.
when people are listening to this on the day that it comes out, we will be sweating our asses off moving your stuff into your new house.
We will be, but I'll be closer to you, and then we can start doing episodes in the same room again, which is also very exciting.
Yeah, and then my spotty ass internet won't affect us anymore.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know how our internet's going to be out there because
Well, we won't have to use internet because we'll just do everything locally onto a hard drive. So it'll be better. Other than packing, how was your week?
uh pretty good. Yeah, just we've been buying shit for the new place, and other than that, just work. And then we did the interview. We had like a crazy storm here during our
Yeah.
interview. Yeah, I mean we both had it. My internet went out. Luckily we were able to finish the interview before my internet like shut off. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was nuts.
It was a
I'm
good
I'm
storm.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people in Minnesota like felt
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
bad. It was real bad.
Yeah, we got a bunch of hail up here. It was pretty gnarly. Um, well, I watched Morbius finally.
Woo. How was it? I didn't
Well,
watch it yet.
so let me preface by saying I went in with such low expectations that I
Hmm.
didn't think it was as bad as it was going to be.
Was it better or worse than Venom 2?
I think better than Venom 2, definitely worse than the first Venom.
Interesting.
Basically saying that I knew that this movie wasn't going to be good. It was better than I thought it was going to be, but it still wasn't good. There was a couple of parts where I was like, "Oh, that visual effects looks like a cutscene from a video game," and then there was a couple other times where I was like, "That was a cool use of like his sonar ability," and then
Oh man,
that,
Sony's really good at making shit movies.
yeah. Except for Uncharted, I really enjoyed Uncharted, but that's because PlayStation was more in control of that than Sony Pictures. And so Sony, stop.
I
Stop
will
making
watch.
Spider-Man related movies without
Yeah,
Spider-Man and without Marvel. Just stop.
yeah. I'll watch Morbius tonight when I'm done getting some stuff done around here. And then when we do come back, unfortunately, we have to take a small hiatus because of my move. Next week, we will not be recording.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll probably check in with you guys. We talked about like in the new house, we might take a video of like
We'll post stuff to social media like
Hey,
while we're getting
yeah,
his new office and studio space set up.
yeah.
But
But there will not be an episode, unfortunately, next week. But when we come back from that, we will be shitting all over Morbius because we'll both have watched it by then.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and by then we'll have 4 episodes of Halo to catch up on. So there's some stuff to look forward to when we come back from our 1 week break. So
Yeah, and of those 4 episodes it'll include the this season finale. So
yeah. Oh shit. Okay, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
yeah, I guess it comes
Dope.
out next week. They're only doing 9 episodes, I found out, instead of 10. So
That's such a weird,
I know.
annoying thing to do. um,
Stop it.
just a couple
Stop it.
couple honorable mentions other than Morbius. The remake of Firestarter, starring Zac Efron, which is an old Stephen King movie or book, old Stephen King movie, old Stephen King book that got turned into a movie, and now this is the reboot of it. Is out now. Um,
Also, Sonic 2.
yep, I
And
watched it. I know you didn't watch it yet,
that's
but
what
I
I'm going to
watched it.
probably do tonight. So,
Yeah, it's fun. I like the first one way better. Jim Carrey again steals the show as he should.
yeah.
But yeah. And then the other one is The Northman, Alexander Skarsgård
Hmm.
as Viking.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke is in it as well.
Willem
I think that
Dafoe, Anya
I think it looks
Taylor-Joy, or
I think it
Anya
looks
Joy
good.
Taylor.
Oh, she's in that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It looks really good.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So when they did Tarzan, they spent more time on like Alexander's like physique than like anything in the movie, and it was like kind of a piece of shit. But everybody was talking about how ripped he got, and like already, that's like the buzz about this movie is like, oh man, Alexander Skarsgård is like, fucking ripped or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't care about that. I want it to be a good movie.
Yeah.
Is he a good-looking guy? Yeah, he's got great abs. Fantastic. Good for you. Is the movie gonna be good? I hope
I
so.
hope so too. I mean, with the cast that's in it, I'm expecting it to be, but we'll see.
Well, I'll say we got the veteran cast in there: Willem Dafoe and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
High expectations there. Alexander and Anya. Meh.
Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see about that.
Well, guys, before we get into the interview, we do have to tell you about our first sponsor, which is Raise Energy Drinks. You guys have heard us talk about this for over a year now, but seriously, if you don't know, fantastic energy drinks. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 crash. And they have so much more than energy drinks out there, from protein-packed desserts, pancakes, pre-workout, supplements. It's all there. So listen up, learn how to save 15%. We'll be right back with you to get into our interview with the authors of Finding Jack Kirby and A Pile of Zinc. What's up, nerds? I wanted to take a minute and talk to you about Raise Energy, an incredible energy drink that provides max energy with 0 crash. Raise Energy takes a giant leap of faith with instilling a high-quality formula to bring a powerful, yet sustained, energetic experience to help you push your workouts and focus to the next level. Perfect for anyone at any time, and powered by their Refresh formula technology, Raise Energy delivers a performance-enhancing energy drink that aids in multiple different categories that include targeted focus, better recovery time, improved clean energy levels, and a boost in stamina and hydration. But most importantly, every can of Raise Energy has absolutely 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 carbohydrates to give you a smarter and healthier option. So don't settle for an energy drink that contains more sugar and carbohydrates than you can count. Instead, head over to repsports.com. That's REPPSPORTS.com and use the promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout for 15% off your order. Or if you don't know what you want, go ahead and click the link that's in the description to get a $50 sample pack for free. All you do is you cover the cost of shipping. Again, make sure you use promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout to let them know that we sent you. Welcome back, everybody. We're super excited. We have a couple of guests here with us this week. We have Richard Greene and Joe Getsinger. Did I say that right, Joe?
Absolutely.
Perfect. They're here to talk to us a little bit about their new book that they're working on together, which is Finding Jack Kirby in a Pile of Zinc. Guys, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. We're super excited.
Seriously, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And we're excited to be here too.
Fantastic. So before we get into talking a little bit about the book itself, tell us a little bit about yourselves. You know, who is Joe and who is Richard? You know, tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Joe, why don't you go?
Okay, who's on first? My name's Joe Getsinger. I'm an artist, author, collector, many things. I joined the state police in 1971, spent 26 and a half years in the state police as an investigator. From that point, I became chief of police of a local town, Westville, New Jersey. And after that, I went into security at a local college. During that time, throughout the years, and Rich knows, I've collected a lot of things. At one point, my artist publisher, Charles Lombardo, has a card game every year, every 9 months, and we all get together, different people, aspects of collecting and antiques and coin collecting, and we get together and have a card game, friendly card game. During that time, we bring items to the card game. It's like an adult show and tell. So I brought some of my art, some of my prints. This one guy, Dave Russell, Big Dave, this is the kind of guy that would trade rocks for sticks just for the trade. But he was at the card game and he brought in these antique zinc plates. And since I had print shop in 9th grade and I could read backwards, I looked at the plates, I could see them, didn't really know much about them. But he says, "Oh, you want some?" I said, "Sure, it's free for me. I'll take 3. So he says, "I'll give you 10. So I picked out 10 of them, put them away, had the card game, went home later. Out of curiosity, I was looking up the plates. I called him back and I said, "Hey, Dave, you know, you might have a diamond in the rough here. You know, these plates go back in the 30s, some in the 20s. He says, "Well, do you want the deal?" I said, "What's that mean?" Because we always would deal back and forth with different things. So he says, you take the plates, do what you can with them, and we'll just split the profits. So I said, "Yeah, okay." Not realizing he had more than 200 plates. I thought he had about 200 plates in his box. So he was getting ready to drive out to Colorado. And he said, "Look, why don't you meet me at the local Walgreens, which is across from the police station in Deptford, and I'll give you the plates." He says, "Make sure you bring your truck." And I'm like, "Hey, what do I need a truck?" I had a truck, so I brought it anyway. And when I got there, he was unloading this SUV that was loaded down. And I'm like, "What are you doing? Having a yard sale here or something?" He goes, No, I'm going out to Colorado with all this stuff, and I'm going to give you these plates." And I looked in his truck, and there's like 50 boxes of plates. And I said, "How many plates you got here?" He said, "About 5,000. I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do with 5,000 plates?" But I said, what the heck? I'll take them. Loaded them onto the truck. He had some illustration boards about the Air Force. And so I got him in his truck, took him home, sorting them out, checking things out. First thing I found was plates that were attributed to Will Eisner, Uncle Otto, Harry Carey. And on the plates, he signed Willis B. Renzi, which I realized later is Eisner backwards. So I started sorting out the plates, and had a couple missing, contacted Rich because he had library connections. We found a library down in, I think, Arkansas or Alabama.
Somewhere down the south.
Yeah, that had copies of the missing plates. I have 2 missing plates. I think it was 7-Eleven. I think that was the missing plate. So we got that all together, got in touch with a publisher. In the meantime, I'm cleaning these plates up and printing them. on an etching press, inking them and cleaning them up and printing them, and took about an hour each to print maybe 10 pieces, and I would pick the best one out of the 10, scan them, clean them up, save them. So we got a hold of this publisher. We, with Rich's help, coordinating everything, putting it together. Rich added a lot of introduction to it, and it became, the book, which is The Lost Works of Will Eisner. You can see here. That was a nice accomplishment. We had that on Kickstarter.
It looks like my copy.
Yeah, that's right. We put that. The publisher put it on Kickstarter. It was a great success on Kickstarter. Published it, printed it. So that after that finished, Rich thought he was done with me. So I started digging into the other plates, and I found that there were some plates attributed to Jack Kirby. Well, Jack Kirby didn't sign these plates, Jack Kirby. Back in those years in the 30s, he was so prolific. He would work for different companies and go by different pen names. During the time he worked for HTMO for Lincoln Publications. I think I got that right, Rich?
That was a syndicate, Lincoln. Yeah.
He went by HTMO. He went by, even though HTMO was the publisher, he took his name for that because, back then, newspapers would take cartoons from artists and put their name on it and own it. Of course, Will Eisner.
What would happen? Let me interrupt here for a second.
Yeah.
You got to realize that this is a point in Kirby's career just beginning. He was around 19 years old. This is before World War II. This is in the 1930s. And he was trying to break into the industry. Like so many people that was reading the funnies in the newspaper, he wanted to be one of those cartoonists. So he went to work for some of these guys. And of course, in the H.T. Elmo case, Elmo was his boss, owned the studio, and wanted his name on the strip, even though Jack was doing it. Joe will get into how he identified it as Jack's work versus H.T. Elmo. But he worked for a number of different studios, and a lot of these studios would hire a couple artists, or in the case of like Will Eisner and Jerry Iger, they would use multiple names for themselves to make it look like they had a much bigger studio, like they had a whole stable of artists, where it might only be 2 or 3 guys with 6 names each. So go ahead, Joe. Back to you.
Yeah. So what happened was doing some more research on these plates. I found a name that came up a lot on a lot of different cartoons was Ted, Teddy. And I couldn't figure out who this guy was because I'm looking, who's Teddy? And every time they put something on there, or he would put someone there, it would have an equal sign after Ted, a dot and a dash. And I'm like, I couldn't figure this out. Finally, under I think it's the comic strip, I found Socko the Sea Dog. And Socko the Sea Dog was by Jack Kirby. I confirmed that was by Jack Kirby, and he signed Teddy with an equal sign. Well, that sort of broke the ice, and that sort of broke everything open, because now I knew that Jack Kirby did, Ted, Teddy, and then that just spread out. I mean, he's done Some Fun. He's done a lot of different cartoons, Chuckle Corner, Sally Snickers, and it just broke open the case. Later, I found out he also went by Jackson, HTMO. He would put that equal sign. It was almost like he was leaving a hint for the future that I would find later, maybe, that that was Jack Kirby. And it was really interesting with that.
Importantly, most of these pseudonyms had been documented in interviews that are in the Two Morrows publications and the Kirby checklist. Kirby had identified the names that he had used early in his career. So that was already documented. And Joe was able to make the connection between these strips and what Kirby had said in early interviews years ago about the names that he used. The Jackson one, I think, is really poignant and significant, because when he went in the service and fought in Europe in World War II, he wrote home to his wife and he signed all his letters Jackson. That was kind of like a little thing between the two of them. And here are these strips that he did in the 1930s, signed Jackson.
And we just,
Yeah,
what
that's
it is,
awesome.
it was connecting the dots.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing, connecting the dots. And
So
Richard Kalkman, who wrote the Jack Kirby checklist, also confirmed all that I had done research on.
So I guess we got the how this happened with the plates, but you know, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about the Kickstarter? Like,
Well, I designed the book. Okay. Interestingly enough, my daughter and
there it
Joe's
is.
son, when they were teenagers, they dated briefly.
Oh,
They didn't stay together, but Joe and I did as friends. And Joe had come to parties at our house and such, and knew that I had a large collection. My wife and I have over 1,000 pieces of artwork, thousands of comics, pulps. I've been involved in graphics for 40 some years. So when Joe came across these plates and realized that they were all cartoon related, that's when he kind of got back in touch with me and roped me in and said, hey, can you help me out with researching this stuff and putting it together into some semblance of a book? Excuse me, that we did. And then we approached different publishers. Locust Moon was the one that picked up on doing the Eisner strips. And it's interesting to note that the stuff that was done for the Eisner Iger studio, I don't know how much your viewers know about it, but you got to realize that one of the other artists in these plates is Bob Kane. And what's significant about that is that Bob Kane and Will Eisner went to the same high school together, DeWitt Clinton High School. So they knew each other. And Kane had gotten work with this fella who was doing a magazine called Wow, What a Magazine. And Jerry Iger was the studio manager, art director, whatever, that was putting this project together. And Kane said to Eisner, why don't you come up and meet this guy, Jerry Iger, and we'll see if we can all work together. Well, the guy who was publishing and that Iger was working for owned a shirt company, and he wanted to get into the packaging of comic books. He pulled the plug after the 4th issue of the magazine, Wow, What a Magazine, which is a very, very rare and expensive and valuable comic because it's some of the earliest Eisner. It's probably the earliest Eisner comic book, other than some stuff that he did in high school for the school newspaper. He, when he pulled the plug, Iger basically said to Eisner, why don't we continue on as a studio and start packaging? And what they were doing is doing strips for newspapers. And there was a thing called the Myers List. Is that correct, Joe? The Myers List?
Yes, it is.
Which was an advertising interconnect. If you know anybody that's in direct mail advertising, it's where you have advertisers that want a certain volume of exposure. In other words, they want to go in 100,000 newspapers. They don't want to go in 2,500 newspapers or 5,000 newspapers. It's not worth their trouble. So what this guy Myers did was he ganged up all these little newspapers and would deliver content to them, but he would be able to go to like Alka-Seltzer, Bristol Myers, and say, I can put you in 200,000 newspapers. Now that might be 50 newspapers all over the country that were mostly weeklies. So the Eisner stuff, there's 52 strips of 2 different characters, 2 different story arcs. It's a weekly. It's pretty obvious with 52 strips. Why would you do 52? Because you're doing 1 a week that would run in a weekly. A lot of these newspapers were foreign language newspapers, because you got to realize that in the 1920s and 30s, ethnic communities had their own local little newspaper. It might be Hungarian, it might be Italian, it might be whatever. And the advertisers wanted to reach into those communities, but they needed to have the volume. Eisner and Iger began to package comic strips to go in these newspapers that were represented by the Myers List. That's how this came about there. beyond that, these are gag panels. They're strips. They're puzzles. There's all kinds of stuff. But Joe, you need to explain how it went from 5,000 plates to about 9,500 plates.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, how I was putting together the Eisner stuff, I realized that there was 3 plates missing, 711 and I think 51. So I reached out for my buddy Dave and I said, "Hey, Dave," I said, "I got these plates, but I have some missing." I said, "Do you have any more? Did you give any away to somebody else? Because I got 3 plates missing, and to complete the set, I need these other plates." So he said, "Well, there was a guy in Philly that had some of the plates, and when they made the deal to get the plates off the guy who had them in storage before the war, and didn't let him go out to get melted down, during the war, he hid them or just stored them away. So he contacted the guy. We got together, and he made a deal with the guy to get me 3,000 plates. He had over 3,000 plates. So he made a deal, and so I got the other plates, and
Another
I wound up with a total of 8,500
God.
plates.
Oh my God.
That's so many.
Subsequently, we found out that there are more plates at Princeton University in their archives and at the Billy Ireland in Columbus at the Ohio State at the Billy Ireland Cartoon Museum and Library. And I've spoken with...
Yeah, the problem with that is they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, they're just sitting in an archive.
And I feel that, I have an antique car, I have a 56 Ford station wagon. I've had antique cars all my life, and I like to restore things, bring them back to life. And these plates are just laying there, and there's a lot of history there. There's like the backstory of Jack Kirby. You talk about people want to find out what Iron Man's about, the backstory on Iron Man or Captain Marvel or Captain America. But this is a backstory on Jack Kirby from his early beginnings to the time that he started creating Captain America and the Fantastic Four and Iron Man.
And it's
that's what was so interesting about that.
And what's also interesting is you look at this early stuff. I think Bob Kane was a couple of years older than Eisner, but when you look at some of these gag panel strips that he did, they're little square, rectangular, single panels. You see the beginning of Bob Kane's style of drawing Batman. Some of the characters, the crime scenes, the dramatic lighting, that sort of stuff. In the Eisner strips, you've got a guy, Harry Carey, who is, secret agent, ZX5. You got to realize that Eisner's 2 favorite strips were artists were L.Z. Segar, Popeye, a Bigfoot strip, and Alex Raymond. Like so many guys that went on to become adventure strip artists and detective strip artists, they all idolized Alex Raymond, who was doing the 3 biggest syndicated strips, in the entire industry at the time. Well, the Eisner strip for Harry Carey starts out as a Bigfoot strip, and in plate 9, all of a sudden it's being drawn like an Alex Raymond strip, and the story is switched from Harry Carey, who was kind of like a bumbling detective, to a secret agent guy named ZX5. Alex Raymond's was Secret Agent X9, if you know your cartoon history. That was the strip that Alex Raymond drew. So it was obviously he was ripping off or an homage, let's call it, to Alex Raymond. But in the plate number, in one of the plates later on, ZX5, the spy, is shown in a suit, at a cocktail party, leaning on a globe with a domino mask, just like the Spirit that would then come along about 6 years later. So you began to see the clues and the hints in here. What's interesting about the Kirby stuff, because Kirby was working in the style of whoever he was working for, this doesn't look like what you think of as Jack Kirby. What I think is most significant is that Kirby was cutting his teeth. He was beginning to draw. He was getting into the style. And as I said in the introduction in the book, it doesn't matter where you start. It's that you start, that you get into it and get in up to your elbows and just keep plugging away. and then you develop your own style. I mean,
Well, what happened also was that, are you there, Rich?
look at any of these
got,
guys. I'm here.
okay. It sounded like
Froze for a sec.
it's just like Jack Kirby did Socko the Sea Dog, which was a knockoff homage to Popeye.
Yeah, again. Yeah, another guy knocking off Popeye.
Yeah. And again, going back to want to restore things, there were a lot of other cartoonists in the collection of 8,500 plates that I wanted to give credit to, because they were cartoonists that everybody's forgotten about. And I just wanted to sort of bring them back to life to let people know that these other people existed, including Bob Kane and Jerry Iger. I have a lot of plates of Jerry Iger. Even had the opportunity to talk to Bob Iger about it to see if Disney wanted the plates.
You
But at
all
the time,
know
they
who
weren't
Bob
interested.
Iger is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was Jerry Iger's grandnephew?
It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
It was-
Jerry Iger was an uncle of his.
Yes.
Okay.
Small world, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of actually answered a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Going
You
through
guys-
this. I mean,
we have like a listed out number of questions, and you guys like breezed over a bunch of them. So,
but
That's
it's
the
like
way.
all super interesting. But you kind of mentioned, that in some of the earlier works, Jack Kirby is like cutting his teeth, drawing in the styles of who he's working for. And with, really any artist will admit, when they're starting out, that their style changes over time. I mean, just look at musicians right off the bat. But, from time to time, you can see a lot of that early work kind of shine through in those latter works. What are some examples that you guys can think of with early? Jake.
oh no! Oh
No.
no! I'm not even. That's lame. Hold on.
Come back, Jake, come back.
Keep talking. I'm here.
With
We
like
lost somebody.
the later Jack Kirby works that so many people are familiar with. Do you guys see a lot of like the early influences that have stuck through his development, like from like Sea Dog,
That's an interesting question.
Snickering
Yeah.
Sally and stuff like that? Do you guys, I guess, see that in later works, some of that illustration style that did not?
I think once he nailed down his own unique Kirby style, I don't see a lot of this early stuff. I don't see Seagar or Eisner or Alex Raymond in that stuff. What you do see is Kirby's storytelling style became much more dramatic and dynamic than even Alex Raymond. Now you got to realize Alex Raymond was doing Flash Gordon strip, which one of the biggest adventure strips of the time, and the header for that, by the way, in the Sunday Funnies was Jungle Jim. Okay, another popular character, and he was doing Secret Agent X9, which became Secret Agent Corrigan after Al Williamson took it over. After Raymond was killed in a car crash. That's another whole story. You might want to investigate what happens when the artist for the 3 biggest syndicated strips in the country dies in a car crash. What does the syndicate do? And what happened was all the assistants got promoted. But getting back to Kirby, it's pretty obvious that Kirby was influenced by Alex Raymond's storytelling style, but he pushed what they call dynamic foreshortening, the dramatic way of drawing, so that you saw the hand in the foreground like this. That's a typical Kirby thing, where the hero's in the background and the fist is coming at you, and it's real big. And of course, dozens and dozens of artists have imitated that ever since. You don't see that in Alex Raymond's stuff. So Kirby pushed the envelope beyond his early influences, but he learned his storytelling capability, sequential panel storytelling from, I would say, Raymond more than anybody.
So
Plus he went from black and white panels to full color.
Okay.
Well, true. That's true. Yeah, he began to do color work for the comic books, whereas all this early strip stuff was black and white in the weekly newspapers and stuff. I doubt there was much color. Again, that's a learned skill. How do you draw art that can be colored and give you a foreground and a midground and a background and doing that kind of stuff. It's beyond just drawing capability.
It was a good jump. He made a jump.
Yeah.
From the black and white to the color.
Now, do you guys consider yourselves Kirby fans? And if so, what is it that you find so attractive to Kirby?
I was literally gonna ask you guys what your favorite strip or comic was, separately or together, if you guys share an interest in that. Well, that was my next question.
I'm a couple years older than Rich.
You're a couple years older than Dirt.
Yeah, I'm Dirt. I'm Dirt. Anyway, well, when I was young growing up, I was born in 1948. So during the 50s, I used to read a lot of comic books, and I liked everything that Kirby did.
Okay.
So I grew up with Kirby. I grew up with my cousin. And they lived down the shore. We used to go down there in the summer, and he and I would sit in his bedroom. He had a whole pile of comic books about 3 foot high in his closet, and we would just go through the comic books, talk about it, just embedded in our brains, about the comic strips. We just loved them.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
For me, I grew up on Classics Illustrated, and it was a cousin I would go visit, and he had a stack of comics in the closet, and we went through, and that's how I got introduced to the Fantastic Four. I can remember reading the famous Reed Richards and Sue Storm getting married issue of the Fantastic Four, and the earliest that stuff, and I fell in love with Marvel in general after that. I have about 1,000 pieces of artwork in my art collection, and I co-produced the first comic book conventions in the Philadelphia area in 1975 and 76. We did a Red Sonja convention, and I think if you look up there is a watercolor of Red Sonja by Frank Thorne, who was like a Dutch uncle to me. See that up there in the corner? Right there. And you'll notice these paintings behind me, that one and that one, are by Frank Thorne. But I don't have a particular favorite. My taste is much more eclectic. Mad Magazine, Harvey Kurtzman, Wally Wood, all the guys who did the ECs, Jack Davis. I visited Jack Davis, got to know him a little bit, and it's all different flavors in the same kitchen. I can't point to Kirby or Kurt Swan or any of these guys, even Eisner, as a major influence on me.
Okay, sorry to interrupt for a second here. We do have to talk about our second sponsor. Our second sponsor is Crybaby Craig's Hot Sauce, pickled habanero and garlic hot sauce that goes on practically anything. And it's fucking good. So listen up. We'll tell you more about it. And when we come back, we will get back into our interview with Joe and Rich.
Hey, you nerds. Do you love spice? Supporting small businesses? What about enhancing the flavor of your favorite foods? If you said yes to any of those, our good friends over at Crybaby Craig's have the perfect solution for you. Crybaby Craig's is a pickled habanero and garlic hot sauce that goes perfectly with your favorite foods, adding the perfect amount of spice and enhancing the flavor of everything it touches. Started in Minneapolis by Craig back in 2012, Crybaby Craig's has become a Minneapolis and Minnesota staple in the sauce world. So head over to crybabycraigs.com and order yours today.
Do you have a favorite Jack Kirby piece?
Not really, not really.
No?
The over there is a Jack Kirby Superman, Jimmy Olsen 133. That's
Oh,
a
that's
page
amazing.
from that. I can pull it up closer to the camera.
Yeah, I would love that. Superman is like
I'd be
my
happy to.
favorite. Yeah.
And it is typical Kirby. I mean, when you look at it, you'll see there you go.
Oh man.
There's Jimmy.
Oh
He always
yeah.
has that facial structure you can pick out in his art.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so freaking cool.
It's nice to have. That's my biggest Kirby piece.
I love that.
It's not a bad one to have, is it?
No, hell no.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
I've got a weird science fantasy page that's by Al Williamson with Roy Krenkel doing backgrounds, and the faces of the characters had to be changed. They're done by Frank Frazetta.
Oh my God.
So it's Frazetta, Williamson, and Krenkel on the same page. There's no end to it.
How about you, Joe? Do you have a favorite piece or strip or comic?
Well, I always liked the Fantastic Four. Also,
Yeah.
the Torch, and I think Iron Man and Captain America. They just like all blend together because we used to read them all. We read them all. I just wish we had the comic books now that we read in the 50s.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, gee,
filthy
what did
rich,
that
yeah.
Amazing Fantasy 15 go for recently? I mean, yeah. That could have been your retirement.
Yeah, everybody, their
I
mother.
just want to point out one thing. I'm not as much of a superhero fan. I like the adventure strips and storytelling strips, and I like the superheroes. They're okay, but I do like the adventure strips. The Phantom, Mandrake the
Phantom.
Magician, even Little Orphan Annie, which was a great adventure strip, and Rusty Riley and Little Annie Rooney and that sort of stuff. And
Dick Tracy,
any of the newspaper strips. But I just wanted to point out something because we just lost this man. Okay, here happens to be one of my Neil Adams strips.
Yes.
This is a 1966 Neil Adams Ben Casey strip. And what's nice to
oh no,
No.
cut out.
What a terrible time
No.
as we're getting the story back.
about it is it's pure Neil Adams. It's Neil Adams inking his own pencils. The majority of the pieces of Neil Adams art that you see now are his pencils and somebody else inking them.
Man.
Because that was the machine of the studio continuity of generating stuff. I like to collect strips that are pure that artist. So, even the Kirby page, it's Kirby pencils, but somebody else was inking it. I think it was Vinnie Coletta. And the faces of Superman were drawn by somebody else. They had to come in and change the faces. And it was, I believe, Murphy Anderson or somebody like that. Kurt Swan may have done it because they wanted it to look like their Superman.
Yeah, most
Yeah,
definitely.
Rich is more of a cartoon historian than I am.
Yeah.
As you noticed, as you can see.
That's super awesome, though. I love stuff like that. I personally did not get into comics until I was late into my teenage years. Like I was Star Wars, Star Trek, like science fiction movies, stuff like that. So
We might be a little bit kind of like you guys, where I'm an artist. I'm not a very good one, but I like to draw and sketch stuff. I think I'm okay, but and I love comic books, and and Chad's a little more on the other side of things, but that's why this happened and why we work together. It's cool.
Yeah.
And I see that in you guys. That's pretty cool.
Now, you were mentioning before about the Kickstarter program. We got on Kickstarter, and obviously for anybody that wants to get on to see what we have there, what we're offering, it's all they have to do is Google Kickstarter and Finding Jack Kirby in a Pile of Zinc, and they'll go right to it.
Yeah, and we'll put that in our show notes too, so people
great.
Okay.
And
We'll
show a
link it.
picture of the cover, which looks like. Oh wait, I have it. Ta-da! This is just a proof. It was done at Staples for us to have a working copy of the book. It's actually going to be a hardback.
Kind of like the Will
A hardback
Eisner book that you guys did previously, correct? How that's
yeah, very similar to the Eisner book. Yeah.
Amazing.
But this is a working copy as we're generating the book and the layout.
I'm excited. I mean, there's a lot of really cool gems in the little bit that you sent over to us. But while you were working on this, I mean, you got a lot of like endorsements and, you know, had like people help authenticate stuff for you,
right,
from like the Kirby family, Rand Hoppy, who is, you know, the executive director of the Jack Kirby Museum.
Kirby Museum.
We actually had the pleasure of meeting him when we were out at New York Comic Con at their booth, which was super cool. But what was it like working with, you know, the Kirby family and the Kirby Museum to dive deeper to learn more about, well, first off, like the zinc plates, but also just to kind of like learn more about who Jack Kirby is and who he was back when, you know.
Well, it's interesting. We never actually met anybody in the Kirby family. It was all through Rand Hoppy representing us to the Kirby family. But Rand, as we would send him images and information that Joe was uncovering, Joe is a great police investigator. First of all, he's got a hell of a lot more patience than I do. and if you're going to be an investigator, you got to be patient, apparently. And as we would uncover stuff, we would run it by Rand or John Morrow. We contacted him of Two Morrows.
Rich Coleman.
These people verified what Joe was discovering and uncovering as that that jives with what we already knew or what Kirby had said in an interview, and that makes sense. And so it was back and forth. On the other hand, I was sending stuff to guys like Walt Simonson, who's a friend. And you know Walt Simonson's Thor comics? He's a Marvel artist, Walt Simonson. I hope you do. If not,
Jake does.
Google
it.
You do now.
Louise Simonson and Walt Simonson are the dynamic duo of the comic industry. They're really two of the biggies. And Walt, you know, looked at a PDF of the book and endorsed it and thought it was good. We showed it to Bill Sienkiewicz and a bunch of other people. You know, we had quite a few people look at work, both the Eisner book and this, and they were fascinated. And they were also really impressed and fascinated that these plates survived. You got to realize that most of this stuff was destroyed in World War II. It was melted down for the war effort.
Yeah.
The fact that this is like finding a chunk of the Library of Alexandria that didn't go get burnt, you know, when that burned in ancient times. To find 30 or 40 different artists' earliest work from pre-war years preserved in this zinc, in this pile of zinc. That's why I came up with the title of we're finding Jack Kirby in a pile of zinc that didn't get melted down and turned into bullets or whatever.
Yeah. Do you think he would be more protective over his stuff now, or do you think if like now he would be very happy to like share this stuff with like a newer generation?
Jack was always very forthcoming about his story and his history. He gave numerous interviews. That was part of Joe's research, is reading all these interviews in different publications with Jack Kirby, getting a little tidbit here, a little mention of that there, and then tying it in. Joe, talk a little bit more about all the little clues that exist in these strips under different names and stuff. The dots and dashes.
The big breakthrough was Socko the Sea Dog. Again, it was a sort of a knockoff of Popeye. And that was the breaking point, because I saw Teddy with an equal sign after the name. And I'm like, who is Teddy with an equal sign at the end of the name? I couldn't understand it. I Googled it, didn't find anything. Finally, you know, I came upon Socko the Sea Dog, and I'm like, holy moly. I would have said something else, but holy moly.
Oh, you can swear on here.
So then
it's a family-friendly podcast. Yes.
Yeah, holy shamoly. Anyway, so I went back to the other cartoons. Some Fun. It had Ted with an equal sign. Teddy with an equal sign, or Chuckle Corner. And later I found out about Jackson, but that had an equal sign on it. Even H.T. Elmo had an equal sign on it. I think Jack Kirby was sort of leaving hints to who he was, because he didn't really like the fact that H.T. Elmo was taking credit for it. In fact, some of the plates I have, he purposely put H.T. Elmo's name backwards, where it said H.T. Omley. Now, obviously, I wouldn't want somebody using my name backwards if I owned something, but I think he did it just to maybe, Horace T. Elmo was on vacation and he flipped his name around. Nobody noticed it. But again, I can attribute, and Richard Kalkman, and we had long conversations with him, and he's like the guru of Jack Kirby information.
Yeah, he maintains the Kirby checklist.
Yes, the checklist. I mean, it's quite a thick book, as you can see, and there's a lot of information on it. A lot of information, and he was a big source of my information. John Morrow. And Rand Hoppy. Of course, Rich helped out because he knows a lot of people, a lot of connections in the comic industry that I don't have.
In the right direction.
Yeah, so we sort of complimented each other. I kept. I thank God for Rich being available as he is, because he's always busy, but he always found time for me to get this thing together, because he knew what it meant to me. And of course, he's a Kirby fan himself. He didn't talk about his million matchbook covers that he collects.
I collect a lot of different things. I collect pulp magazines, comic books, match covers, artwork. Yeah,
he just scratched the surface of which Rich collects.
My mother claims I came out clutching the umbilical cord, saying, "Can I keep this?"
Can we see the over your left shoulder? There is a black and white piece. Oh man, I don't know how to point to it. It's like,
well, that's the Kirby. What, are you talking this above me?
No. Yeah, right under that. Could you bring that closer?
That piece right there, the pretty lady.
Yes. Can we see that?
I'll go get that.
Yeah,
that's a Frank Thorne painting.
Oh, and that's you kind of referenced it. It was one of your first conventions that you set up in the Philly area, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the first year was Roy Thomas and Frank Thorne were the guests of honor, and the second year it was Gene Colan and Steve Gerber, Howard the Duck, and that's a pretty lady.
It's beautiful.
There we go.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a painting by Frank
Thorne.
I've got probably about 8 or 9 paintings like this that he did. The biggest one is probably about 3 feet by 4 feet of Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. But I've got comic book stories, and Frank was just a tremendous friend, like a Dutch uncle. He was really one of the inspirations that got me to go back to art school. He and Roy Krenkel were mentors that got me to go back.
Okay.
If you don't know who Roy Krenkel is, you should Google him. He's the only guy that Frazetta ever credited as a major influence on him.
Oh.
So in the first Frazetta book, he credits Roy. So,
okay.
Anyway, Roy was one of the guys that influenced a lot of the EC guys, Al Williamson and Frank Frazetta and those boys.
Okay. Yeah, and like we mentioned, earlier, we will definitely post links to the Kickstarter and everything like that, and we'll share this to our listeners. It'll be part of our next week's episode, everything like that. But where else can people find you guys, learn more about what you're doing? Obviously, this is a very condensed version of both this book as well as some of your other works that you've done together. Where else can people find you? And do you have any closing words?
Well, I don't maintain a website at all. I'm on Facebook a lot. Joe has a website, and that's really where people could go, because it's looking like we may not make this Kickstarter goal. We're really kind of worried about that.
Well,
I'm sure Joe will.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will we'll give you everything we got to hopefully
Hope.
help
We hope.
out.
Yeah,
But Joe, I'm sure, will tell the story. He'll update people whether we make the goal or not. I'm sure he'll put something on his website about what the next steps are.
Yeah, we at some point we're going to publish this book somehow, because Rich works very hard on this, probably harder than I did, even though I had years of work on this, printing these things, scanning them, cleaning them up, saving them. But anybody that wants to see some of the work and the book on Will Eisner, they can go to my website, which is www.jgetzingerarts, plural, jgetzingerarts.com. And I have a lot of other, I have a little Abner art on there. I have a lot of Lone Ranger art. There's a lot of different things. If you go on my website and look under cartoon, the cartoon section, you'll come up with seeing the book and seeing the promotional thing with the link to the Kickstarter program. But at some point in the future, we're going to publish this if I got to win the lottery.
Well, we will definitely help you guys out the best we can, and I want to get my hands on this thing too.
We'll link to the Kickstarter. We'll link to your website, so then there's no excuse for people to not find it.
I might mention also, Joe might have copies of the Eisner book still available on his website too.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in that, they can go to that website and order a copy.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
what can we do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the episode. Yeah. We really appreciate getting a chance to talk with you. I know that we barely scratched the surface on the history, and just the topic that is Jack Kirby, let alone just these zinc plates in general. We really
appreciate you guys are so cool. Yeah. Like, this is where I want to be.
Like, goals right here.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
one of the actual zinc plates right there.
That's one of the actual. Move it up to the camera, Joe.
Yeah, let us see it a little closer. Oh man.
So this is a direct printing method. So in other words, everything is backwards, just like a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed to offset lithography, where everything on the plate is right reading, gets transferred to a rubber blanket, which then transfers to the paper. It's offset by an intermediary image receptor. Whereas the actual plate comes in contact with the paper. And that's why they use zinc, because paper is very abrasive when you think about it, and to make it hold up long enough. And there's one of the prints made from one of the plates, which is one of the Kickstarter rewards. Where a number of the Kickstarter rewards involve you getting a plate.
Yeah, this is
an actual plate, not just a print.
An actual plate and the print of that plate.
I'm doing it. I was already gonna do it because you guys are amazing and for being on our show, but I want one.
We just upped what we were going to.
And some of the rewards are actually this. Maybe we should have shown this earlier.
Yeah, I want that.
Sorry about the cellophane on it here, but there's a print of that plate and a little descriptive paragraph about.
I want both of those.
Yeah, so it comes matted and framed, matted, ready to stick in a standard size frame.
Oh my God!
The cellophane off mine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got one.
I want it. I want it.
Guys, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for.
I hope you can make something out of all this.
This is great. Oh my God, there's so much here. Yeah, this is fantastic. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on here. This is crazy.
Fun.
Thank you for all the work that you guys did to uncover early Jack Kirby works.
That's really Joe. That's really Joe.
I mean,
it's a concerted effort. You know, like a marriage takes two to tango. And this is one of the rewards is
yes.
We made up a refrigerator. This was Rich's idea, which is a great idea. A refrigerator magnet of the cover of the book.
I love it.
So if nothing else, we'll send you out a couple magnets.
Yeah, we'll send you a couple magnets.
Perfect.
And if you guys stick around after we close out, we can give you some of our information. We'll send you guys some of our stuff too.
Oh,
wanna,
sweet.
yeah.
Well,
give you
definitely
guys
email it to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I got something from Chad,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so make sure that I have an address to send the magnets to,
absolutely.
and we'll send you I think I sent my address, but I'll certainly will reply with
Yeah,
mine.
I'll follow up with that so that we'll get to that after we close it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just excited, getting ahead of
Now,
myself.
what are you coming to any East Coast conventions in the next few months? Or?
Oh
We don't
man,
have anything on the books yet. I mean, we loved our time at New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
we got Jerry's trying to convince us to go to Tokyo.
and but I actually just moved from Ohio, so we'll get into that in a second. Let's go ahead and close this out. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Whatever.
Thank you
once
again.
we get this published one way or the other, we'll contact you again to maybe promote the book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
And make sure you guys get some signed copies.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
And obviously we can't wait to talk to you guys again with more information about the book, and thank you again.
Yeah.
Great. Our pleasure.
All right, everyone. That was an awesome interview. Those guys are so cool and have so much knowledge of like the history of comics and cartoons, and just holy shit. They were a blast to talk to. If you guys want to see some behind the scenes or extra recorded stuff that didn't make it into the interview, check us out on our Patreon page. Any of the dollar amounts that are available for monthly donations gets you access to all the behind the scenes. And now that Jake is moving closer, we're going to flood more and more extras to that. So check it out. On top of that, I mean, please like, subscribe, give us 5-star ratings on wherever you listen to the podcast. It really does help us out, and we really appreciate it. Other than that, I mean,
keeps us going.
Yeah, it makes us feel good too.
Yeah.
Plus,
go
for it. No.
I was just saying it keeps this going. Like,
yeah,
we've mentioned it a million times, so we're just gonna keep banging that into your ears. But we put our own money. We put our own money into this. Like, we're doing this for fun. But the more we get from this, the better shit we can do with it. And we're only limited to us talking in your ears right now. So
yeah. And with that being said, we also...
You did that on purpose.
I did not. We do have a live stream coming up middle to late June. We haven't set down a date yet, but we're going to be doing the Hot Ones Challenge. So check us out on social media for ways that you can submit questions that you want us to answer while we burn the shit out of our mouths on some spicy, delicious vegan chicken nuggies. And it's going to be great.
Chicken nuggies. Yeah.
Other than that, we're going to go ahead and close out this episode, guys. We love you. Thank you for being a part of this. And this has been the All Things Nerd Podcast.